Good morning. Delicious. How's it going? It's your guy, Hello Ego. I have recently come across two new plugins that I think are really, really awesome. All right, like the amount of tone and character you can get out of these two is amazing. First of all, I should probably explain what they are, I guess, to begin with. So there's the two plugins are Tectonic by Aberrant DSP and the Fuse Compressor by Minimal Audio. Minimal Audio also makes the Rift distortion plugin, which I'm a huge fan of, and Tectonic also makes Digitalis, which I am also a huge fan of. So these, yeah, look at this thing. It's like from the 90s. I love it. It's so cool. It sounds great. So these are two companies which I already really love, and I think they're great. And what both these plugins are is essentially OTT. And what OTT is, of course, is just simply upwards and downwards compression, squishing the sound into a narrow band, right? So if we check out regular old OTT over here, upwards compression, downwards compression, right? Yeah, like that. And so since these two have been released, and they're both released pretty recently, like within the past few months, I believe, I've been starting to use them a lot instead of OTT. And it's not that I don't use OTT anymore. I love it. I use it all the time. It's great. These provide like different flavors of OTT. All right. First of all, Tectonic is 4-band, which is cool. Like, that's great. A little bit less fully featured, but has some unique characters and qualities and, like, you know, features all of its own. And the Fuse Compressor is a lot more like what you see with OTT down here. We have your upwards compression, your downwards compression, and then the output gain for the bands, things like that, which is basically like this, you know. So it's a little more standard as like what you would expect out of an OTT style plugin, with a few extra things that I think are even better too, including things like channel link, and, you know, different types, different modes, and we'll get into all that. We'll get into, oh, you know what, and also you can go up to 6 bands. I should mention that. This is like a 6-band OTT. Absolutely incredible. But let's dive into this. I want to do some sound tests here. So I got this drum loop. Let's just turn these off to begin with. Here's a drum loop. This is available or will be available on my Patreon. It's just one of my drum loops. Right, lots of crunch, lots of hiss, lots of character to be pulled out with the OTT. It's kind of why I chose this to do these demos. Now, standard OTT, turning this on just out of the box, is going to sound like this on it. Really flattened, really compressed, right? And that's kind of the point. That's the whole thing we go for. Usually I like to dial it back a little bit. But what these two allow us to do is to find different styles and different forms of OTT that are just really, really cool. I'm just going to open up Tectonic, and I'm going to flip through a few presets to begin with, just to give you an idea of what these sound like. Let's just go to like the general to begin with. I should probably turn it on first. That would help. Here I was really bringing the mids out on this one. I'll explain the interface. The interface is really crazy, but it's actually easier than it looks. I'll talk about it in a moment here. Ooh, such a nice high-end character on that. Let's go to some of these like intense ones. See, that sounds a little more like standard OTT in a way. I mean, without the mids, right? It took all the mids out. But like this sounds a little bit more like normal OTT would. These really intense presets here. Okay, so let me just dive through and talk about what exactly this plugin is doing. So first of all, we have 4 bands, okay? And in between the bands are the hertz for the cutoff. So this is like 120 hertz. You know, so everything below 120 is processed by the low band. Everything above 120 and below 600 is processed by the mid band. Everything above 600 and below 4K is processed by the mid 2 band, and everything above 4K is processed by the high band. A little bit limiting that you can only choose one of 6 options for each of these, but honestly, not that limiting. It allows you to really quickly just like, you know, test a few things, kind of removes the whole, you know, what is it, the choice paralysis or option paralysis, I guess. So I don't mind it at all. You have your mutes for each channel, right? So if you don't want to hear a certain frequency range, like let's say I want to get rid of all these upper mids. We can see I've just totally gutted this region right in here above 600 and below 4K. It's just this area right in here is gone now. So you can mute it, you can solo it. The trim is going to be like a volume control for this band. Can gain it up by 12 decibels or gain it down by 12 decibels. So how the compression in this works is that on each of these little shapes in here, if you drag up, what it's doing is it's applying this OTT effect. It's applying upwards and downwards compression and turning up the output gain and turning up the ratio too, I believe. I have to double check, but I think it's turning up the ratio of the compressor. So as I were to turn this like mid 2 band up, and I'll turn the high one up too. Hear how it brings out the top end texture of the sound? Off. And back on again. Okay? Pretty nice like that, right? It actually sounds really good. I think that this one sounds fantastic. Same deal for all the bands, right? Everything's identical all the way down. Now, there's one really cool feature of this that none of the other 2 OTTs, whatever you want to call them, compressors, have, and is that each of these bands has independent frequency or stereo width control, I should say. So check this out. If I want to like widen these lower mids, I can just use this stereo and I can like, you know, narrow or widen the image. So there, it's really wide. I turned them all up, and I can turn them all to mono too, just by turning them all down. So now it's like a perfectly mono image. So this I love, and I've been using it quite a bit to get some cool imaging effects. All right, sorry, I just took a phone call and I totally forgot where I was. So yada, yada, yada. I think I was maybe talking about the stereo width on this. It's cool. I love it. It's great. Moving back on here, we have a few other features at the top I want to quickly touch on with this before moving on to the fuse compressor. We have a gate. All right, now normally the gate is normally turned off. We can turn this gate up to like, I don't know, as high as -6 decibels, but this is just like a simple noise gate. Right? You can hear it's just cutting out some of the noise in between. And it sounds like this noise gate is post compressors. So I think it's a post gate. So basically if you boost all of this, then you know the gate will interact differently because it's getting fed with different gain levels. Then we also have here, let's just pump them all. Why not? Put the gate back to 0. We have a mix knob. You have your independent input output decibel, which is a great, you know, feature to have. Then the style. So there's all these different styles. There's standard, relaxed, tight, punchy, aggressive, and broken. And these are all going to be like big differences in the sound. Maybe make it like slightly less for all these. So one thing this does not have that I really wish it did is a timing control. I That would be, oh wait, what is this? Oscilloscopes? Oh yeah, that's just in here. I really wish this had like timing controls for all the different bands. That would be the one thing that's really cool. But as far as like a different type of, you know, upward downward compressor. Oh, and by the way, I didn't mention, this is downward compression only. So this will just push everything down and turn the gain down too. Right, so standard downward compression, like this, but without any of the upward compression elements here. But yeah, I think this is great as far as like a, you know, a different type of OTT style processing. It's very, very cool, and I've been using it a ton lately. All right, moving on to the fuse compressor. So this is great. Let's just go through a few presets to begin with. It even has a whole preset section called OTT in here. Like, what more do you want, right? Go ahead and check this out. One thing I like to do is I like to use this on basses and stuff. I'm just going to go ahead and find one of my sound design basses. Here, let's just use it on this too. Okay, without it. Nice, fat, and rich. Those are all the OTT. Let's see, the character. Here we go, yeah. There's like there's a mixing one up here as well. So let's just dive into this a little bit. This one I'm not going to spend as much time on because it is honestly a little more standard, right? We got your threshold for the downwards compression here, here, here. We have your threshold for the upwards compression here, here, and here. And then these little lines in here indicate the ratio. You can always see over on the right-hand side what the ratio or what the threshold is. If I move this, you can see this is like an infinity to 1, so it's just totally smashing it down. And this one is kind of like now totally smashing it up. And if we set these sort of like this-ish, we can see that we're sort of mimicking the shape of OTT over here. And it's got this really cool adaptive time feature, which will pretty much like, you know, if you have the adaptive time turned to 100%, what it's going to do is it's going to make the attack and release time faster for the top band and slower for the bottom band, and then inverting it does the opposite. All right, so this is pretty cool. Woo, yeah. Then we over here, we have a knee, right? So soft knee will be like, this is an extremely soft knee. All right, this is like turning on soft knee in OTT over here, which it defaults to being turned on. I'm not going to get into what knee is, but essentially it, okay, fine. I'll get into what knee is very, very quickly here, so I don't make this video too long. But what knee is basically at the point where the compression starts to happen, which is here where the little like dot is, you can kind of soften that curve. You can see the knee right here. If I turn the knee down to 0, then all the compression happens immediately at this dot, and it's 100% in there. If I turn the knee up, then you can see that it's kind of like slowly easing in the compression, and then slowly, you know, like this whole range here is where the compression is starting to take effect. So it's a more smooth, more gradual, sometimes a more natural sounding compression, but less aggressive in general. And that's basically all knee is right there. We also have a tilt, which will kind of shift it either to the high end or to the low end. Right? Bass boost and high cut. high boost bass cut. And you can see all of these interact accordingly, right? There we go. We have the on-off button here, the solo button. Nothing too crazy about that. You have right here, you have like a general upwards and downwards for all of them, so you can move them all together. Which is a great feature if you want to just quickly dial it in. Dry, wet, output. What is this? Input send. When activated, the input gain will only affect the signal that's being sent into the effect, leaving the dry signal unaffected. I don't know. I haven't played around with that yet. Then over here, we have a limiter, like a soft clipper and a hard clipper. So basically, purple is soft clip. The red is hard clip, I believe. Oh, no. Purple is gentle limiting and saturation, and orange is punchy soft clipping. So if you want to really drive the output, that sounds so good. It just sounds so good. Like if I resample this and look at the audio waveform on it, I mean, it's totally squarified. Let's change this a little bit here. It makes sense. I'm driving it into the flipper. Wild. Yeah, so this is pretty cool. I love this OTT. And the nice thing here is that we have a channel link, so you can turn this down, so it's got like a left and right side, which is useful for things like this, where it's a very stereo style image. You can see now we have two bands going around up here, a yellow and a white one, and one's for the left side, one's for the right side, so it's like two independent OTTs for the left and the right. And then you can turn this mode to mid or side, basically. So now we'll compress the sides differently than the mid signal. But yeah, anyway, those are my two new favorite OTTs. Lots of fun. Very, very useful. They both, all three of these have like their own independent character. And I think that they're all super useful. Anyway, if you like this video, I hope that you did. I've got a, oh, where is it? Patreon. Here we go. I've got a Patreon right here. Yeah, I would love it if you subscribed. That would be awesome. And I've got things like monthly sample packs every month, tutorial videos. I'll offer track reviews and also private lessons, custom sample packs, all that good stuff. So, all right, thanks.